Welcome back to our Heritage Works. Today I'm going to break down this pork shoulder butt. The first step in breaking this down is to inspect the meat to make sure there's nothing out of the ordinary, and then I need to find the bone. There's going to be two pieces. There's going to be a small piece and a blade piece. In between them should be a nice seam of fat or sinew for me to follow along with the knife. So I've found the bone. Now I'm going to start cutting right between the sinew layers, and I'm going to work my knife along the edge of the blade side of the roast. Now that I've started cutting through, I can double check where the bone is and then continue my cut along the top portion. And I'm just using the tip of my blade here to pull back the meat away from the bone. The tip of the knife is just there to help kind of scrape it off. Now I'm looking for another seam to work on, and I found it. Using the tip of my knife, I'm just working my way down the edge of that seam. The cool thing is the meat will tell me where to cut. As you can see, the meat separates very easily, and I'm also using the weight of the meat to kind of hold itself back. I'm working on the other side of the blade, just getting it started so that I know where the meat is going from that. I have two different knives. One is for close, hard to get to locations, and the larger one is a little bit easier to handle for this size of meat. I'm going to keep working my way around this bone, just pulling the meat gently and then cutting along the bone until I can free the meat that is right on the edge and then extract the bone. When I get the bone out, I'll be able to save the bone and then make some broth or stock out of it. The meat I want to break down, there's only two of us, and this much meat at one time is too much, so we decided to break down into small pieces where we can have nice little meals out of this large roast and be a little more frugal with our funds. This per pound was significantly cheaper than buying steaks and those type of things from the butcher. As I'm removing the last bit of the meat around this bone, I'll be able to set it aside and then concentrate on the rest of the breakdown of this piece of meat. One option is to fold the meat up, and then I could tie this up and it would be a boneless roast. But like I mentioned, we want to go ahead and break this down into smaller pieces so that we can have multiple meals out of it and enjoy it in different ways. To break this down, I'm going to continue following the fat and sinew lines and cut this into some smaller, better handleable pieces but it's not hard. It's just a little bit time consuming, and I'll be able to get a lot of different meats out of this. The piece on the left has nice fat and skin on it. I'm going to trim this off. I can use this as for chicharrones or anything that's similar to a pork belly. If I left this fat on there, I could have treated this whole piece as if it were a faux pork belly and would have gotten some really good meat out of it. I'm going to work on removing some of the tougher sinew and those types of unedible portions, as well as cutting these into the smaller pieces. The plate at the top is pieces I'm going to work back to. The top right bowl is what I'm not going to keep, except if I'm going to make any kind of stock or anything like that of it. I want to be sure that I'm removing any of this gray skin sinew from the meat. It's just going to be tough and no one's going to want to eat it. So I'm going to take time and trim it off right now so that we don't have to worry about it later. The meat itself should be cooked slow and low, and it will be just fall apart and wonderful. Now that this piece is all trimmed up, I have a nice small roast. I'll be able to use some butcher string on it and tie it up and make a nice little roast for the two of us. This little piece here, it's not got a lot of meat on it, but it would be good for stews or for stir fry or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead again and trim it up as best I can, and then I will set it aside for stew meat or something like that. Fajitas would be another option. This particular piece just looks good by itself. Again, trim it up and use it for stew or whatever. I am collecting some of the fat that's here so that I can have it for flavor if I want to brown some other meat or something like that. I've got the fat here and won't have to use extra oil or anything. I can use the natural fat. Okay, moving on to the larger piece that's left. It had this little extra piece on the side, so I'm going to trim it up. Again, it'll be good for stir fries or taco meat or something like that. Again, I'm going to look for the seams and I'm going to cut along them and see what I can come up with as far as usable pieces. But the meat will tell me where I need to cut. This piece has fat on it like the other piece did, and just enough of the meat on it that I think I'm going to keep this and use it as a faux pork belly. It's not a pork belly, but I'm going to use it that way. The one piece that I set aside, I'm going to take a better look at that later. But trim off a little bit of the extra fat and undesirable parts and set it aside. Back to the big piece, I'm going to trim it up and see how many pieces I can get out of it. As I'm cutting the meat, I'm looking to make the pieces roughly the same thickness. So here I found a spot that was extra thick, had a natural seam for me to break off, so I chose to do that. But I'm getting some nice size roasts, some smaller meats. It'll all be good in whatever I cook it in, I'm sure. As I'm finishing up, you'll see that I've got some nice roasts, some medium size, some small ones. I've got fajita meat, I've got some pork belly, I've got some fat to cook in if I want to make sausage or something like that. And I've even got some pork skin, a flat roast, etc. Thank you very much. Please like, comment, and subscribe and share with others.